What's up, everybody? You've tuned in to Just Draws, the podcast that explores hot topics and various experiences among same-gender loving Black men. In each episode, we offer raw, vulnerable, and stripped-down perspectives to give voice to our frequently overlooked population. Here, we don't just scratch the surface, we dive deep, peeling back the layers of our experiences as well as heteronormative stereotypes. Let's get into this week's episode. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another special episode, bonus episode of Just Draws podcast. We're doing a just the two of us this time around. So there's only two of us on the mic today. So we got me, Darius, and
Sean.
We decided we wanted to do just kind of a duet or a just the two of us kind of bonus episode so that we could talk a little bit about a topic that both he and I kind of shared when we were trying to come up with some other topics and content for the podcast. And so we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this notion or this idea of coming out. You know, a lot of content creators have these coming out stories, especially same gender loving content creators have these stories. And so they usually will get on the screen and they talk about how they came out and all of that stuff. But one thing that makes it a little bit more special or a little different for us is the fact that we came out a little bit later in life, or at least I did. So we just wanted to kind of get together. And since we share that, wanted to kind of talk to you about it and share our experiences, share our thoughts, and share our whatever is going to come is what we're going to share with you to this afternoon or this evening or on this specific episode. So I guess we can just kind of start with this idea of when was the first time like we knew that we had an attraction to the same sex? Like, what was your first time?
I kind of need to divide this up in terms of where it felt like a more romantic type of connection where I was attracted than besides just the kind of the emotional attraction. Because I will say, for me, it wasn't a tortured path or anything like that. And I came out later, but not extremely late. You know, I'm talking early 30s. It's not,
right.
You know,
that was me too.
Like, yeah. So it was, but it wasn't a tortured path. But again, it was more kind of getting more of an understanding of myself and really where I was. For instance, junior high and high school, going into high school, I had the same two really close male friends. We were just friends. Mm-hmm. In high school, I added a third really close male friend, and there was a different emotional connection that I had with him, but it was platonic. But our parents, for example, would always tease us and say, you guys are like a married couple, because we would negotiate with each other and really kind of make decisions as a unit. And it was a really strong emotional connection that I had to him.
There was no romantic involvement at that time, but y'all were moving.
Not at all.
Okay.
He had the same girlfriend that he started high school with.
Oh, so he was straight. Okay.
That went through high school. I was the best man in his wedding. They were married for, 30 years. But it was one of these where I knew that there was a different type of connection there. And then when I went off to college, it was kind of a gradual kind of getting to know myself more. Like I would meet fellows who were really kind of exploring and were dabbling a little bit and kind of getting together with guys and stuff like that. I didn't have that desire at that point, but I was like, oh, okay, there can be something between men. For instance, I have uncle who's 4 years younger than I am.
Okay.
He was a queen from the outset. You could tell, he was kind of the stereotypic little gay toddler even. And then as he got older, kind of, flirting with boys and chasing after them. And you could just really see it. And that's what, I really equated with being gay.
Right.
And as I was in college, I'd meet guys who were just kind of everyday fellas, and you could see them dabbling a little bit more. And so in my mind, it started to kind of form a little bit more. Oh, this can look different than what the stereotype is, and it can be fulfilling. Yeah. So I'll say this. So then, after college, graduated, went to Europe for, the better part of 2 years, kind of just had really a normal, nothing out of the ordinary, no experiences or anything like that. Came back, started law school, the summer after my second year of law school, a friend of mine was getting ready to go into the Peace Corps. And so we decided to take a trip together. On that trip, we kind of fooled around a little. And I was like, oh, this feels fresh and not.
Okay.
And then forward 3 years later, he came back and I went down to visit him in New Orleans, and we had a fun week together. And I was like, I'm understanding myself a lot more. This is something I could see developing into a meaningful relationship in life, not with him as an individual, but in terms of having a really fulfilling life. Before, I would say it was like, I had my girlfriend in college, and I just assumed at some point I would get married, start a family. But as I started to get in my early 30s, I was like, you know what? That's not the only path. And that's probably not the path that makes sense for me. I have this deeper connection with men that I just really didn't understand before, but there were clearly indications that were there.
So the lesson in that is, everybody, if you want to know if you're gay or not, join the Peace Corps, so then you can actually go on a trip and you can explore these things.
I didn't go to the Peace Corps. My friend went in the Peace Corps.
Okay.
My friend went in the Peace Corps right before I started my third year of law school.
Mm-hmm.
So when he came back from the Peace Corps, because he did an extra tour, about 3.5 years later, I then went down to see him, kind of as a welcome back.
While he was on his tour, or no?
No. He came back to the States.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So when he came back to the States, I went down to see him just as a welcome back, and so we could reconnect and hang out. And it was a fun-filled weekend. I was like, oh, yeah, this works.
So he maybe found himself in the Peace Corps, and so he was ready for you when he got back?
He knew himself before he left. He definitely was clear that he would eventually end up partnered, married to a man, but really hadn't expressed that to me. But we always had kind of a flirty interaction, but it was not ever acted upon.
Okay. So that was your first romantic thing. So we went back to your first kind of interaction with that energy was with a friend in high school, right?
No, that was that was right before I started my third year of law school.
Okay, not this guy, but I'm talking about the guy before. So
that one was fully platonic. That was just the emotional connection that was there that really was much more intense than I had with my other two really close male friends.
Okay, got you.
And so it was a definite difference of degree. Like I could feel the difference in the emotional connection. Like one of these other two close friends from junior high and high school, I'm still very close with, but I certainly never had the feelings for him that I did this other third friend that I picked up in high school, where it was like, I'm really connected with him and he is with me. It's just platonic, but it is truly a loving relationship.
Okay. Yeah. So there were some similarities with my attraction to same sex. It came later. I think that was definitely a similarity because I was in my early 30s when that happened. But it came after a situation where I had done something that was out of character for me. I had slept with a young lady who was married, who was relatively newly married, and I justified it. And that was something that I didn't do. I prided myself on being a pretty moral type of dude, but I found myself going, oh, well, I don't even know that guy, so I can do this and not have a problem. And the fact that I actually thought about it after the fact, I was like, you know what, this is crazy. Why did I justify this? Or how did I justify this? So in the process of me stopping all of my interactions with females at the time and just kind of really investigating why I did what I did, I started to notice guys a lot more. And so I began to notice them in ways that I hadn't noticed them before. Prior to that, I didn't have any attractions to guys. Not those type of attractions. I could say, a guy is attractive or he's handsome or something like that, but that was normally all that it as far as it went. But at that point, I started to notice guys and I started to go, oh, that's a handsome guy. And then start to go, wow, that's a really handsome guy. Like, why do I keep wanting to look at this person? And so I think when I slowed down, if there's some sort of scientific whatever to this, but when I slowed down and I actually started to pay attention to what my body was telling me is when I realized that that's what it was. And so I remember the weekend, I called it, I'm all about branding. So I called it Gay Saturday, I think is what it was. So what I did was I said, okay, I need to kind of investigate what this is and figure out what this is. So I went and rented, at the time we could rent movies and stuff like that from video stores and all of that. So I went and rented some episodes of some shows. So I watched, and I was watching stuff on the internet as well. So I watched, there was a show called Shirts and Skins that came out. It was maybe like 6 episodes about the gay basketball league. And I watched that. And then I started watching Noah's Ark. And I had never watched it, hadn't had any desire to watch it, didn't know what it was, any of that stuff. And I started watching that. I think I watched, there was a gay storyline on something called the LA Complex. So I watched, somebody had put all of it together on YouTube, and I watched all of that. And so that was just, it was just that Saturday. I just sat around and watched a bunch of gay content and tried to get an understanding of how this was supposed to go. Because like you said, there was a lot of stereotypical, like I knew what stereotypical gay looked like. I didn't know that there were levels to this. I didn't know that there were masculine presenting gays. I didn't know that there were more feminine gays. I didn't know that there were in between gays. I didn't know all of these things. So I just thought that, oh, if I'm gay, that it's going to be the Antoine Merriweather and Blaine Edwards, you know, from In Living Color kind of thing, men on film. So I was nervous about that because I had always been told, or people, you know, I grew up with people telling me that they thought I was gay, or that, oh yeah, he's gay, he's gay. And I never had any of those desires. I was like, I don't like guys like that. I'm not interested in guys, but everybody was telling me that. And so when I finally started to embrace it a little bit, it scared me because I didn't want those people to be right. That's really what it was. I was like, damn, you know, all those years, quote, everybody was right. So I didn't necessarily have a moment where I found I had an attraction, but it just kind of happened. And then I began to investigate that and really kind of lean into it and see what it was actually about. So it took me a few years to really get comfortable. There are points where I can say I might not even be as comfortable now with my sexuality. I'm a lot more comfortable than I was, but there are times where I'm still kind of a little bit reserved and I don't talk about it that often. Not that I have to, but I just kind of don't. I think one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of talking about it now is because of kind of the social climate of acceptance that we had around that time. So you said you came out around your early 30s. I came out in my early 30s as well. I was around 34, I think. So when you had that realization about your attraction to the same sex, like what was kind of the social climate around that time for you?
You're talking the early, kind of late 80s, early 90s. So my first experience would have been 1990. Yeah, 1990, but then nothing again until 93 or 94. So it wasn't that evolved. I mean, you have to remember, like, it wasn't much earlier that AIDS was such a hot topic and people were dying and what have you. So there was still a fair amount of fear. It was starting to lift to some degree. I lived in Seattle at the time, so it was certainly a much more welcoming environment, but there was still enough of a taboo. And I would say that's not really what necessarily like hindered me or anything like that. For me, it was just really this unremarkable path of kind of discovering who I was and what brought me fulfillment holistically. So that, it's like, where do I feel not only is there attraction physically, but where I would truly be emotionally invested in someone. And it was a path where eventually it became very clear to me that I have a much different connection with men in a romantic sense than the majority of women that I dated. Except maybe early on where, the whole dating thing is just so exciting. And it's like, oh my God, it's like I have a girlfriend type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that giddiness around it. But in terms of just looking deeper inside, in terms of where I found the most fulfillment, it was just coming to that realization, hey, there is this connection and this physical attraction to men that by far is truly innate to who you are as a being. That's what I realized about myself.
Well, that's good that Seattle, see, I grew up in the South. So I grew up in North Carolina. And so definitely the social climate was a lot different. But when I was in my 30s, it was in the 2000 and teens at least. Yeah, 2000 teens. So 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. So it was around that time.
And I'm familiar with the environment. I mean, my parents are South Carolinians, and
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
it's like,
it was still, I mean, even at that time, while it was definitely it was more open than it was when I was in college back in the 90s, there was still a little bit of taboo surrounding it, especially
sure,
in the Black community, in the Southern Black community, there was still a
right,
lot of taboo around it. And so again, with me not wanting to prove people right all of those years, I hit it. I was one of those guys that we all know the people who are kind of not as comfortable yet with their sexuality. They come out as bi first.
right.
And then they go, yeah, I'm bi, but and then the bi turns into, well, I'm bi, but I prefer guys, but I'm still attracted to. And then that turns into, well, I'm still attracted to females, but I haven't really messed with a female in a while. And then finally you kind of get to the acceptance. So it's almost that whole stages of grief sort of situation where it's like, okay, the first stage is denial, and then there's anger, and then bargaining and depression, all of that stuff. So I did kind of feel like I went through some of those stages through that. But yeah, that climate was definitely really hectic. I didn't want to, and I still kind of feel like this. I didn't want to wear my sexuality on my sleeve, even though I'm not ashamed of it per se. I just didn't want to wear it on my sleeve. I didn't want that to be who I was. I didn't want, and I still don't want it to be who I am. Like, I don't want it to be, oh, that's Darius, he's gay, kind of thing. Or that's Sean, he's gay. I want it to be, Darius, he's something else. So
Yeah, and I'll say, if I had been partnered or in a long-term relationship or something like that, while I wouldn't have been shouting it from the rooftops or anything like that,
you wouldn't?
No, I probably would talk about it more with people. I mean, but being in Seattle, it's like what I want to date wasn't readily available. Like, people that I would want to date, other Black guys, for the most part, they were chasing after white dudes. Other people of color, they were chasing after white dudes. Or if they were Latino, it was either white dudes or Latinos type of deal. And so there was no real reason for me to be out and proud and loud and all that, because I'm like, I have nothing on my arm, so I don't need to really tout it. I'll be out supporting others and working with organizations that are supporting the community and what have you. But for myself, I'm like, I don't have anything to talk about, so I don't really need to. But I certainly, when I was dating, and if it was a serious enough relationship, I certainly was more than happy to talk about it.
Okay. So in talking about it, who were the people that kind of like you talked to about when you were dating? Did you talk to family, or did you talk to friends, or?
I mean, more friends. It's, I would bring, the couple of guys that I dated seriously, I would bring to events with my family here, because in Seattle, it's me, my parents, my sister, now my sister's kids and grandkids. But at the time, it was just really the four of us. We moved here from the East Coast without anyone else out here. And then I have a cousin who moved out here after he graduated from high school. For the most part, if we had family gatherings or, Christmas or something like that at my parents' house, I would take them down there. But it's not like there were a stream of guys or relationships that lasted like 10 years where I'd be taking them down there. It's like, I had friends who were gay that I would take down there, but they were in platonic relationships. So they were platonic relationships. So those folks I would take down there for, 10 years or more. But in terms of romantic ones, it's like, only if I thought it was a serious enough relationship, because otherwise I'm like, you don't need to know my people.
So what were their reactions to like you bringing people home or bringing people around?
There really was no reaction. It's like, I would say it was neither positive or negative. There was no hostility, but it wasn't like they were out, oh my God, what's your guys' relationship or anything like that? Or are you guys dating? I mean, it was none of that. It was just kind of like, hey, it is what it is.
Did you share with your family, like when you realized you had the attraction?
No, I'd say it wasn't one of those coming out stories where it's like, oh, by the way. It was more like
at dinner.
Hey, I'm bringing someone with me down for Thanksgiving, or down for Christmas. And
was that person like your roommate? Like, did you?
No, oh God, no.
that? Yeah.
No.
This is my roommate.
No. Plus, I rarely lived with anybody, and definitely not in a romantic sense. I've never lived with a romantic partner. We always had separate digs.
Right. So yeah, no, like the stigma that when somebody brings home a roommate or a best friend, but they're actually so that kind of thing. So yeah, there's still a lot of my family who I haven't officially shared that I'm dating or that I'm interested or that I'm attracted to guys. I'm sure they know, but it's not something that I share necessarily with them. My family's really religious, and not that that's a huge thing, because I doubt that they would like disown me. Like, you hear a lot of people. I don't know that to be true, so I wouldn't put that on them like that. But there's still people I haven't told in my family, and the friends. Of course, it's a lot easier to tell friends about your stuff. So it's easier because you can. Sometimes it is easier to kind of walk away from people who don't support you
or not
accepting in that realm. But the family members that I have told are people who are a lot more progressive. Like my older sister knows. I've told my older sister. I've told my middle sister. I just told my baby sister actually this maybe about a year or so ago. I actually officially told her, and she was like, "Yeah, well, she had actually heard from my middle sister, which kind of pissed me off, but." Then a couple of my brothers know about it, but I haven't like officially. I told one, but I haven't officially like told any of the others. But again, I'm sure that they know. So the reactions from them haven't been poor, but I kind of am laying in the pocket as it relates to letting a whole lot of people know, just because I don't want to. Again, I don't want to wear that on my sleeve. I don't want that to be the thing that either you don't talk about or the thing that people are kind of ashamed of per se, because I'm the same person and that's just what it is. But
yeah, and I'll say family's interesting from the standpoint, my parents were always fine and accepting, but I will say, as they've gotten older, my dad will soon be 91, my mother 85, my mother fine, no worries, hasn't really changed. My father has kind of regressed to some degree in terms of kind of the religious viewpoint and just really expressing some views, because we've gotten into it a couple of times where I'm just like, like the homophobia isn't working or the bigotry isn't working. And it's a little bit surprising because I'm like,
he's still that way?
No, it's not still. It's kind of a regression. Like,
so he's, okay.
Because before it was fine and accepting, but as he's gotten older, kind of late 80s and into his 90s, we've had to get into it a couple times because it's not acceptable. His regression is not acceptable in his mindset.
So that's what I was saying. So like he's still that way, like to this day. So there's been a regression, but like it didn't reverse itself.
We haven't had any major blowouts in a few years. So it's like, so it's been fine. And, my sister, I mean, we're not all that close. So first of all, I don't want her in my business. So I really don't talk about much with her. But again, as you and others know, I'm gay emeritus. So it's like,
we're going to talk about that in just a moment.
For a very long time. So there's nothing for me to really talk to her about. But it's also that if I was dating someone, would I be willing to kind of have my sister around and stuff? Yeah, that would be fine. But for the most part, I also would keep some barrier up because I'm like, I don't want you in my business. We don't have that kind of relationship. Like, you don't need to know the person that I'm dating really well. It'd be different if perhaps it was I'm, again, gay emeritus, so no dating whatsoever. But it's like, if it was going to be a long-term relationship or something like that, that'd be a different story. Because it'd be like, this is someone that you're definitely going to have to deal with at family events, et cetera. But since that's not the case, you don't really need to be up in my business. And, or asking me, well, what's going on? Who are you dating? It's like, that's none of your business. You don't need to be in that.
Okay. So your sister does like inquire?
No, not in a very long time.
Not recent. Okay.
No. But even before, it was like, you don't need to be in my business like that. We don't have that kind of relationship.
Yeah. Okay. So you were talking about the idea of being emeritus, gay emeritus? What drew you to that term, or what drew you to that way of life now?
Now, it was a long time ago. A lot of unsatisfactory dating experiences and the options in front of me. It's like that old saying of, I would rather be alone than be unhappy.
Okay. And so how long have you had emeritus status, and who bestowed emeritus status to you?
I bestowed it upon myself in at least, let's say, 15 years.
Okay. So those negative experiences kind of caused you to go, okay, you know what, done, not doing
Done.
this shit no more. Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you did have some positives though in there, right? Okay.
There were some okay. There were some okay ones.
Okay. So
Yeah.
nothing like completely positive there that you were like, yeah, I was completely happy with.
Yeah, I'd say there's probably one.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, let's give the listeners a little bit of hope there that like you did have something at some point. Damn. So okay, got you. But yeah, so the negative, I know, but I know plenty of people that are like that though, that are like, nope, I'm not dating. I don't want to date. That's it. Like, we're not doing that. We might get together and do the horizontal monkey dance, but we are not.
I ain't doing that either. I'm like,
yeah, well, yeah. So
done.
you're
Done. No.
So, okay.
I'm gonna leave that to the rest of you. I live vicariously through the rest of you.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've had some positive experiences. I don't ever look at anything that I've been in as completely negative. I always look at it as teachable moments and learning experiences. So my outlook is a little bit different. But I've had some negative situations sort of happen that have soured me on things right in the moment, but I haven't graduated to that level yet.
Well, you learn from each experience. I mean, it's
Right.
not, you take something away, but the bottom line is and again, would the situation have been different if I had stayed full time on the East Coast? Who knows? I mean, it's
So
more.
you think geography definitely had a play?
No, not necessarily, because
Okay.
you have different challenges. Again, I have a place in Atlanta. I had a place in New York. It's like
Mhm.
it presents different challenges
Okay.
in terms of availability. Whereas if you're in a city that offers more choice, of course,
Mhm.
then you are faced with, okay, you find someone that you think is really great, but that person's always looking for the next best thing, even though
Okay.
they've got a good thing going, that they may realize later on, oh, I really screwed that up.
Mhm.
But there are challenges there as well. But I also think that there's more opportunity on the East Coast generally, and then in kind of the pockets of Black culture or culture of people of color, like Chicago or something like that. But I'm not trying to be in Chicago because I don't do
Those
the whole
metropolitan
thing.
cities here.
Yeah, but I don't do those cold places, not during the winter.
We've had those conversations about you and cold.
Yeah, no.
And how that doesn't work. Yeah. In previous episodes. So listeners, if you want to get an idea of those, you have to kind of go back in the archives and pull that. So your current feelings about dating and doing any of that. So
I am here to support all the rest of you fellas and live vicariously through you, because through your happiness and relationships, I can have fulfillment.
What about like your own kind of loneliness, or do you ever experience any of that?
No,
or like,
no. A friend and I talk about this all the time. I don't get lonely. It's like, I mean, I have good friends and stuff like that, and I enjoy life. I get out, I travel, I do the things I want to do. It's like my happiness isn't dependent upon anyone else.
True. Yeah. I mean, and it shouldn't be, but I know sometimes I get in those moments. I can say I understand where you are. Like, I don't necessarily have to be in a relationship per se, but yeah, I get those moments where I'm like,
that's because you're young and still have hope. You haven't been broken yet.
not completely, but I mean,
yeah.
I guess I'm young. My body is telling me otherwise on certain days, but
give it another 15 years and then we can talk. And I'll be like,
yeah. See, hopefully I will be locked down and locked in by that time, though.
There you go.
So we'll see, but I don't know. So what do you kind of see then as like moving forward? Like, what do you see as your future? Other than I know you're retiring soon. So
Indeed. So
yeah.
I'll just enjoy life, continue traveling and doing things that I want to do without having to worry about anyone imposing their wants and desires on me. Yeah, it's good. Because again, I don't feel that being in a relationship is something that I would need to make me feel complete. I think I live a very fulfilling life and I enjoy the friends and family that I have around. That's good enough for me. Yeah. I mean,
I can see that.
you say you're hoping to be locked down, which I think is great. Because again, I am here to support that wholeheartedly.
hmm I mean, ultimately, I think I would if I'm not in like a marriage or a committed sort of situation like that, I think I'll be okay. But at least I would. I'm way past the point, not way past, but I am past the point of like, just like random kind
Hmm.
of hookup kind of things or the revolving door that I experienced in my 30s and my early, my little bit early, the first part of my 40s. So I'm kind of past that definitely, but I would like something consistent. I do want something that is reciprocal and that it's mutual, all of those things. And it doesn't have to look like a marriage or it doesn't have to look like a domestic partnership, but I want it to look like something that brings both of us happiness and both of us joy and something I can say, okay, yeah, this is my person. We may not take it to a level of making it official, but I'm fine with making it official.
Yeah. I went to a gay wedding last summer in New Jersey. Well, I guess last fall. It was initially supposed to be the summer, but one of the grooms got COVID. So,
Oh well, yeah, that'll do it. That'll
yeah.
damn do it.
But
Yeah.
it was fantastic. I loved it. And then another friend of mine in Atlanta is getting married here shortly. I love that.
Yeah.
It's nice to see. And it reaffirms that it can be done. I love it when I see it. I mean, I have plenty of friends who are married and have been together for a very long time, but with kind of the hookup culture, app culture, and stuff like that that's developed over the years, it just seemed like that wasn't the focus of a lot of people for a long time. And it's just nice to see that there's still some room for that.
Yeah. I think that that little bit of hope is the stuff that we can all kind of hold on to and hope that things get better and that we all find, the people that we're supposed to find, well, except for you, because
Done.
you don't want to find them.
Done. No, it's there.
Even if somebody's out there for you, like you ain't interested, like at all.
How is that going to be? No, it's like the couple of people that I should have been married to. It's like I know who those people are, and
Okay.
yeah, and that
Mm.
ain't happening.
Okay, that might warrant some backstory on a future episode because the look on your face
Oh no, I know.
was a
Oh
little
yeah, no.
interesting. Yeah.
I know the couple. Yeah, I know the couple that. Yeah.
Oh, they're a couple. So the
No,
person
they
you're
are not
supposed to.
together. The couple of them.
Oh, the couple
There are
of
a
them. Oh,
couple
okay,
who.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So listeners, stay tuned because we might get a little bit more on that a little bit later. We might be able to delve more into this emeritus status that
Oh, it's going to stay where it is, but
Okay.
I recognize that again, there are people that you would expect everything to work and to click.
Mhm.
But again, and it stems from kind of the struggles that many Black gay men have in terms of just really seeing a long-term healthy relationship.
Yeah, I think that healthy is what a lot of us are missing is that the healthy part of that. And all the various definitions that come along with what people think a healthy relationship is. So I can agree with you on that.
Yeah. But,
So
now I'm at the point where it's like, you know what? Life is good. I'm perfectly situated to like live a very fulfilling life and to continue to enjoy friends and family. Do I need the excess drama? I do not, especially after 15 years of cutting that shit out.
mhm.
Look, I only swore once in this whole cast so far.
Yeah, great. I mean, anytime we get a chance to throw a swear word in there, why not? Why not? We hope you enjoyed this episode. Now be sure to like, share, and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, and Spotify at Just Draws. That's JUSTDRAWZ. Until next time, as you interact within your various communities, remember to be like Draws and don't be afraid to offer a little bit of support. Peace.